Hey guys, welcome to Femme Fables. Megan here, and Kim is with me again this week, and we are talking about the 5 love languages. So, what are the 5 love languages? So, it's a book written by, I think, Dr. Gary Chapman. I think it was written in the 90s. It's like sold millions of copies around the world. It's written in like 30 different languages, I think now. But so, all about what your love language is, what your partner's love language is, and even I was listening to a TED talk about like your children's love language too, which was interesting. So it's not just about relationships, right? Friendships, everybody receives and gives love differently. So the 5 love languages are quality time, so spending quality time with each other, acts of service, so doing something for the other person, whether it's like cleaning up the kitchen after you make dinner, cleaning the car, right, walking the dog. Words of affirmation. So, Kim, you look very nice today.
Yeah, thank you. Mm-hmm. You're beautiful.
Good, thank you. That's one of my top ones, the words of affirmation. So thank you. No. Gifts. So whether large or small, getting gifts because that person is thinking about you, and then what am I saying?
Physical touch.
Physical touch. So, physical touch, right? Holding hands, cuddling, kissing, that sort of thing. So, Kim and I took the quiz to find out our results so that we could talk about them and then kind of just talk about love languages. Do we think it's helpful in relationships or not? I think it is. So, I'll give my own personal experience I had within the last year. And I know you've had the experience in your last relationship as well. So, you want to go first? Want to pull up? You got yours up?
Yeah. So mine was acts of service.
And that was what percentage?
40% acts of service. So pretty high compared to the other 4 options.
Yeah, it's almost half of your result.
And speaking of like my prior relationship, I think a lot of that probably has to do with the fact that there weren't a whole lot of acts of service on his part in my previous relationship. So now it's like something very important to me. And I also think actions speak louder than words. So, like, if you can show me that you care for me, like, that just makes more sense, I guess.
So, it's funny. So, you said you didn't get that a lot in your last relationship. And I was watching a video and somebody was like, oh, the love languages are bullshit. Like, everyone's going to hate me because of it because it's such, like, a well-known book. Counselors use it all the time in couples therapy and things like that. But I think what you just touched upon is kind of one of the reasons why I do think it's important. Do I think it's the end all to be all to a relationship? Hell no. There's so many caveats of a relationship to make it successful. But if your partner and yours, I'm going to take away the narcissism and all that, right?
Sure.
And all those things.
Yes.
That's another topic that I listened to Dr. Ramani, who specializes in narcissism, talks about what your love language and being with a narcissist will do to you. Totally, probably
that's a whole other conversation.
Another topic. But take away that. So if your ex comes home and he was like, you know what? I brought you this gift. And then he goes and sits down on the couch and then you have to go walk the dogs. That gift does not mean much to you.
No,
right?
I would much rather you come home and like do something, take something off of my plate, like take the burden
for me.
From me.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
A gift is nice, don't get me wrong. Like, it's nice to know, like, oh, you were thinking about me throughout the day and like you thought to get me this thing. Like,
right.
But I would much rather
that's not
have
your primary love language.
No. Mm-hmm.
So it's not going to fill your tank, as it were.
No, it leaves me on E.
And Dr. Chapman said, he related it to a car with no gas. The gas is the love language, and if you're not getting it, car's not going anywhere, which is your relationship.
Yeah, for sure.
Because then you grow resentful, but then it's, okay, how do I communicate maturely with this person, which I didn't know this at a younger age, which I wish I had known about this at a younger age and probably learned to communicate better, versus I find myself just getting frustrated at the other person because they weren't giving me what I wanted, but I didn't know how to communicate it. So I would let it build until I blew up.
Sure.
Not the best way to communicate, right? And I'm still working on that too. Like people ignoring me is a big trigger for me.
Of course.
So I'm trying not to
wonder why that is.
react so poorly when people do that to me, and I have to realize it's more about them and not me, kind of thing, because I just think that's rude to do to somebody, but
sure.
I digress. But yeah, if you're, and mine, it's funny, mine's changed. I took it about 6 years ago, and I think physical touch was up at the top. And now, let's see, my top one is quality time. So quality time's 37%, words of affirmation 30, physical touch 23. So really, I'm just fucking needy. Like, because they're all relatively in the could care less about acts of service or receiving gifts. Spend time with me, tell me I'm pretty, and touch me a lot. That's not so much nice.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Words of affirmation is my second one too.
Right, so words, and then I think it drops, right?
Yeah, so words of affirmation was 23%, and then quality time is 17%.
Okay, that's still...
Receiving gifts, 13, and physical touch, 7.
You're like, do not fucking touch me. That's interesting to me.
Well, I think the physical touch being at the end also has to do with my medical condition where I get sweaty.
Oh, okay.
And so I don't want to touch people. And
That
I feel awkward,
makes
like,
sense.
putting my sweaty hand on his back and, like, trying to... Like, I want to do those things. I want to have those levels of, like, physical, intimate touch with my partner, but, like, I don't feel comfortable. So I think that it falls very low on my priorities because of my own discomfort. I wouldn't be upset if a man wanted to be all over me. I do enjoy feeling like a man can't keep his hands off me kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, like,
right.
It's more me, I think.
Yeah. That makes sense. I saw that. I was going to message you and be like, don't touch Kim.
Don't touch her.
I saw that. So I was telling Kim that I'll give everybody a little counseling session for free. I pay for my counseling, but I was dating a guy last year, and I needed words of affirmation. We had quality time together because we spent a lot of time together. I talked about him on a few episodes, but spent a lot of time together. But quality time is not just about spending time, it's also quality, which means you're not on your phone, you're paying attention to the other person, which kind of at the tail end of this relationship, there was a lot of that, like on the phone thing, and who knows who's probably
very
talking
disengaged.
Talking to another girl, who fucking knows. So, so I was talking to my counselor, and I was like, how do I explain that I need, and this person had an ex who was so very prominent in his life, and that made me insecure. So I needed words of affirmation became my top love language in this relationship because I needed a little bit more verbal validation because he talked about his ex so much. I needed to know that I was still like wanted and desired and all those things. So I'm like, how do I communicate this to this person? We've only been dating a couple months. And she's like, okay, I'm gonna tell you a story. So this guy was a teacher, and he was dating a girl, great girl, had everything he wanted. Everybody loved her, and it was his anniversary of teaching, and, he told her, she's like, I want to bring cupcakes to the school, and he's like, okay, he's like, well, I want chocolate cupcakes. I like chocolate cupcakes. She comes to the school, she shows up, she has vanilla cupcakes.
Oh, no.
And he's like, what the hell? And, of course, all the other teachers were like, oh my gosh, she's the best. And he's like, yeah, she's all right. They're like, what do you mean? Like, she's perfect. Like, she brought you cupcakes. Like, that's awesome. How sweet. And he's like, but I don't like vanilla cupcakes. I like chocolate cupcakes. And I told her that.
She didn't listen.
And she, that bitch didn't listen.
To the moon, Alice.
But you get the gist. Like,
yes, sure. He was upset about the wrong thing, in my opinion, but yes.
Right. I think it's more of less about what he was upset about, but more of he likes chocolate cupcakes and she was giving him vanilla.
They weren't communicating or listening to each other's needs.
Right. Or like what she was. So what's funny is usually what your predominant love language is how you also show love, usually. So if that person, so yours, for example, I don't know if that's true, but if yours is acts of service.
It is.
And that person's is words of affirmation, all those things you're doing may not translate to love to that person.
Right.
That's the point.
I compliment them or, yeah.
Right.
I see what you mean.
Right. So in my situation, and I remember being at dinner, I'd made dinner or sitting down and I'm telling him this story and I kind of see like the wheels like clicking, like, okay. And he did make an effort to try to, I just don't think, that's a can of worms we don't want to open, but I don't think he was he's capable of that level of intimacy, like of just being like, oh my God, like you're so beautiful. And he would tell me I was beautiful and all that stuff, and he missed me. He did try, but you know, it just didn't, eventually it just didn't work out for whatever reason. Well, I know the reasons, but it didn't work out. But all that to say, you know, if anybody wants to use that story about the cupcakes, if you're not getting your primary love language met, because it's true. I mean, and I think it can cause friction in relationships because, like you said, if you're I'm doing the dishes, I'm cleaning the house, I'm doing your laundry for you, I'm doing this, and that person's love language is gifts.
Yeah, but I did
They're
them
probably
all,
like, oh,
so,
I appreciate.
Yeah.
I mean, I
he
have
got
too.
every love language from me, so I don't think it was that. But I do understand what you mean, like, for sure, and I think that is definitely the case. Like, some people, like, gifts, I don't give a shit about that. Like,
Yeah,
if you just give me gifts, but you don't bother to tell me how you feel about me or help me around the house, then that's like, what are we doing here? Like, what, you trying to buy my love? Like, is it out of love? Like,
Right.
Those are the things I start questioning, because my love language is not gift giving, really.
Right, exactly. And that's what I'm trying to get at, is that, you know, I've had friends tell me who are married, like, oh, my husband doesn't give me my love language. And I was like, how do you function? Like,
yeah.
Not that that's all that you're relying on. You know, there's other things too in a relationship, but if your love tank is empty, and I think a lot of people's love tanks are empty in marriages, but that's my own personal
That's a whole
opinion.
other conversation
Right.
we can have too. But
Yeah.
yes, for sure. I think people stay in relationships with people that aren't giving them what they need because it's easy.
And it's comfortable. And they've been with this person a long time, and you know,
It's
being
harder
single is scary as shit,
to
because
be alone.
look at us out here trying to make it and find relationships. You know, it's tough, so I get it.
It is tough, but do not use that as an excuse to stay in a
No,
relationship that does
I
not
agree.
serve you. I did it for way too long. It's a
And
waste.
especially if you're like, well, we have kids. I'm like, I grew up in that environment. Oh, we stayed together for
Yes.
you kids. And I'm like, well, you kind of fucked us. So.
Right, like the kids.
Sorry,
would be
Mom, I don't
much
mean that. My
better.
mom's gonna listen to this.
Oh yeah, that's
Sorry, Mom, I don't mean that, but you know what I mean.
No, but I get that. Like, you really need a partner in life that you can communicate with. I think that's kind of what it comes down to. To learn each other's love languages, you have to talk about what you want and need in a relationship. And if you can't do that successfully, you're not setting a great example for anyone.
Yeah.
Your kids or otherwise.
There was a guy, like I told you, who was like, oh, the debunking the 5 love languages. It's actually about attunement, like just being in tune with your partner, which I do think that's part of it. But I also do think people receive and accept love differently, which is what the love languages are about. So I think it's important. I've had guys I've dated take the test, so I know what their love language is, you know, kind of thing. And it takes work, because if you're a person who wants words of affirmation, but you're with somebody who's not comfortable verbally expressing love, which I think was kind of my case in the last one, like he could physically in the bedroom, fine, but other intimacy beyond that, like, I think he struggled with. And, you know, you got to find somebody hopefully who can match that, or try to work on yourself to figure out what your demons are and your issues. But that's a tough road. Shadow work, as we like to refer to it as.
Yeah, most people don't do it because it's difficult.
It's hard. It's not comfortable. Trust me. So I was telling Kim, you know, it's funny when you start talking about things with your friends or texting, then you start seeing your Instagram blow up with those things, because, you know, everybody's listening to what we have to say. Mm-hmm. So this psychiatrist I follow on Instagram posted an alternate love language. So I kind of want to talk about them because I thought these were interesting. So the first one is understanding your partner's trauma. That to me is huge. We talk about trauma a lot. We talk about attachment styles a lot, because attachment styles, I think, if you have an anxious partner attachment style like mine, it's mine. You know, why I think words of affirmation is also tied to my anxious attachment. I need the verbal validation, so that makes sense to me. But so it says unresolved trauma creates patterns of thinking, your core beliefs, coping mechanisms, how we deal with stress, the way we attach to another human, how much we trust, plus how we regulate our emotions, how we deal with the day-to-day life. By understanding our own trauma and how that manifests, we can begin to understand our partner's trauma, patterns of behavior that come from that, and we can vulnerably connect and create a beautiful space of healing with commitment and practice.
I think that works if you're with a partner that isn't a narcissist, but yes.
Well, yes. If you're with a narcissist, they're just gonna invalidate and increase your trauma for
correct,
you.
or use it against you.
And use it against
happened to me so many times.
Yeah.
But I agree. Yeah, understanding your partner's trauma, understanding your partner. Period. Like knowing where they come from, what they've been through, what their life experience is only going to make your relationship stronger and better.
And I think we talked about this. One of the reasons why I tend to probably be a little bit more forgiving of people in the poor ways they treated me. Not that it makes it right, and I don't necessarily condone the behavior, but I understand. I know some level of their trauma in their childhood, and I'm like,
sure.
Okay, like this makes sense. Like,
I mean, but I've had
is it
those
right?
same
No.
right, exactly. I've had those same epiphanies about myself.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
that's
for
why
sure.
I am the way that I am, and now I'm gonna work to change it so that way I don't fuck somebody else up because that's what you end up doing.
That's the difference. And the person I'm talking about, is mentioned several times. Yeah, I could go to counseling, but well, if you're not going to counseling and working on it, look at the clock. 2:22. Cut this out.
Yo.
I'm telling you, it's crazy. All right, the next is nervous system awareness. Our nervous system state creates thoughts, behaviors, reactions, communication styles. When our nervous system is in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, which I don't even know what all of those are. I know fight or flight. We're in survival mode and cannot take in new information. This is why so many fights are cyclical and there's rarely active listening. Learning to become aware of how to regulate your nervous system is a game changer within relationships. That's huge to me. I have been guilty of probably more fight responses, like getting upset really easily versus like, okay, let's take a step back. Let's listen to one another. Actively listen. Don't listen just to respond.
Sure. Well, and like way past relationships, like my decade ago self was definitely very volatile when it came to arguments. And I would cut. I'm one of the cut deep types. Maybe
You're an
I'm
Aries. Yeah. I was like, don't fuck with you.
So,
Cut to the core.
But I've learned, like, once you say something, like,
take
it's
it
been
back.
said. And some people can't get over it. Some people will never not hold it against you. So I've had to learn, like, there are things that, like, and then, like, why? Why did you say that? Like, did it really make you feel that much better?
Right.
No, it just pissed both of you off.
Yeah.
Like, what was the point of that?
At least you're self-aware of it, though. That's a huge,
Yeah.
and all you can do is try to work on it. Because it's true. I've had people say things to me, and it has hindered the whole relationship. Like, because it was a personal attack on my character. This was a friendship.
Right.
And I can't get past that. Like, I can get past it, but it's not the same anymore.
Sure. There's been this fissure
Right.
that's been placed by that person.
Exactly.
I understand.
All right, the next is commitment to each other's freedom. Most of us have been unconsciously manipulated since we were children. We've been guilted, shamed, or have had our reality denied. We weren't allowed to just be, and we weren't seen or heard for who we truly were. Allowing freedom means having difficult conversations, showing your partner safety, creating safety in your own body, being attuned of your partner's emotional state without trying to control it. Interesting.
I think that kind of goes to, it's kind of like talking about how, there are some relationships where your partner is your shadow and it's like it's like you chameleon and turn into this person you're dating in a way.
Yeah.
And like you don't have this freedom to be yourself anymore and you're compromising your individuality to fit in this relationship rather than opening it up and talking about what you need.
Yeah. We hear you, Knox.
He agrees.
Yes. All right. I think that having the difficult conversations is huge, but you have to feel safe with your partner. So I think that's why they probably follow with that, right? Because you have to feel safe to be vulnerable without being judged or ridiculed, or right. And that's just a big, I don't know.
Yeah, difficult conversations, I think, for myself have become easier and easier to have because I just practice on my own. Like, the more you say something out loud, even when you're with yourself, the easier it is to say any other time.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
And I don't really have fear of being judged by a partner anymore, but I do think that it is so deeply instilled in us that it's hard to get away from that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't mind having difficult conversations, but I've had to practice the state of having difficult conversations without being combative.
Agreed. Yes, for sure.
And coming from a calm place versus a heightened state of emotion.
I agree.
Yeah,
100%.
I'm guilty of that.
The same.
That's I've let things build, and then you put a dirty dish in the sink, and I was like, "You didn't tell me you loved me last night." Like, you know what I mean? Like, what the fuck? Like, crazy ass bitch. What are you mad about? Like, you know.
The straw that broke the camel's back.
Yes, it was just a build up. So I've been guilty of that, but you know, this was me in my 10 years ago state. So, all right, knowing when your egos are speaking. The ego is most activated in intimate relationships. It's when our ego steps in to protect us because in our past, close relationships brought pain or overwhelm. Awareness of the ego will make you a better communicator, will allow your partner to feel understood, and will allow you to make more choices aligned with love rather than fear. Many relationships are locked in cycles of ego stories, which only leads to resentment and feeling misunderstood. Ego is a huge thing for me. I think that was why it was so hard for me to get over the last person, because my ego was hurt so bad because he didn't choose me versus actually being about him. I think my ego and pride was hurt the most.
Yeah, I think for me, what I would end up doing is just totally shutting off, like just not even addressing it, like forget it, because I didn't want my poor little ego to be hurt.
Yeah.
You know, so I'd rather just not even deal.
Ego is huge though, because ego will prevent you from being able to have conversations and all that because your ego's in the way. Like, well, I don't, you know.
Well, what do I need to talk about this for?
Right,
or
yeah.
Like, we've already had this discussion and I'm right.
Right.
So
you're being crazy. That's silly. Why would that upset you? You know, that kind of thing.
But that's like a whole nother, that's like gaslighting.
Well, that is gaslighting though.
So.
All right, the last is non-judgment and non-interference. Treating your partner like an autonomous adult who you trust to make decisions in their best interest. Allowing your partner to be on their own journey without trying to control it creates safety, security, and mutual respect.
That's something I've had to work on, control.
Yeah.
Because there's been so many things in my life that I didn't have control over that if I can, I'm going to try to control what I can. And that does not make for a happy partner.
Right.
And having been on the opposite end of that, where someone tries to control me or tell me what I can and can't do, or what I can and can't wear or say or hang out with, like that's, it's not going to foster a successful relationship. You still have to be yourself with a partner.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think controlling your partner is obviously healthy in any way. I think I'm more of like want to be in control of the situation and where it's going. And if I don't know, that creates uneasiness in me. So then I start, you know, that goes back to it, having an anxious attachment style. Like, I don't know where this relationship's going. Is this serious? Is it not? Versus, you know, I've had to learn, and I'm still practicing it, to be more go with the flow, like, and not have to control the outcome.
Yeah, I have definitely had some struggles with that in the past, but I feel like that's the kind of thing that can push men away, is having that
Yeah, I know.
anxiety. So I feel like over time I've kind of detached from that feeling, and then it's almost like I think men think maybe she doesn't care at all.
That could be the other.
So it's like the other end of the spectrum,
swing, yeah.
right? So how to find that happy medium, I guess, and being with someone who you can trust to take care of things. You know, when you're with a partner who is your age, but they don't have half of the things that you have in life, you start to wonder, are they capable of taking care of themselves? Like, and so then you do almost feel this like mother role instead of a partner. And then that makes things really messed up, because then the ego of theirs comes into play and it is shattered because now you are the, I don't know, masculine figure in a way. Like, anyway, it's complicated, man.
Yeah, relationships are tough, but you know, I like the 5 love languages. I think there's some validity to it, but you know, I know it's not the end all to be all, but I thought it's an interesting topic because I think everyone should know what their love language is and have their partner take it. And I was briefly dating a guy, and I was like, you know, hey, like, you should take this quiz. He's like, no thanks.
I think it does help you learn a little bit about who you are, you know, and like you said, it's not the end all be all. It's really something for you to build on. I think it's like a great starting point.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a good like foundation, and then, you know, there's all these other little tiny like caveats obviously to a relationship. So, all right. Well, we will wrap it up, and we're gonna go shopping.
Yeah.
Retail therapy.
You know.
But curious your guys' thoughts. Have you taken the 5 love languages quiz? If you have, comment on what your love language is. Do you think it's a bunch of BS? I'd be happy to hear that too and know your take on it. But hopefully you enjoyed this episode, and feel free to email us if you want to hear a topic at femfables@gmail.com, and we will see you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.